We are doing section 6.7, the last section in chapter 6, which is graphing linear inequalities in two variables. The first part of this section is to figure out whether an ordered pair is a solution to an inequality. The way we do that is plug in the x, remembering that each coordinate is x, y. We plug in the first number for the x in our inequality and the y for the second to see if it makes sense in the inequality. So in this one we'd have 0 minus 3 times 0, and we're wondering if that's less than or equal to 6. 0 is less than or equal to 6, yes. Next one, 6 minus 3 times negative 1. Wondering if that's less than or equal to 6. This is 6 plus 3, which is 9. So this is no. C, 10 minus 3 times 3, less than or equal to 6. 10 minus 9, which is 1, yes. And D, negative 1 minus 3 times 2, less than or equal to 6. Negative 1 minus 6 is negative 7, which is less than or equal to 6, yes. Okay, same thing down here. Tell whether it's a solution, put the first number into the x and the second number into the y. Negative 0 plus 2 times 0 is less than 8. Yes. Negative 0 plus 2 times 4, less than 8. Careful on this one. Is 8 less than 8? No. Negative 3 plus 2 times 5, less than 8. Negative 3 plus 10 is 7. So is that less than 8? Yes. Second part of this section is graphing the equations. What you're going to do is graph the line. We know how to do that. If you have a less than or a greater than, that means you should have a dotted line or dashed line. If you have less than or equal to or greater than or equal to, that means you need to have a solid line. And what you're going to do after you do the line is you're going to shade the true side. And I will show you what that means in a little bit. So graph the inequality y is greater than 4x minus 3. This is in slope-intercept form. So we're just going to have to graph it like we would normally graph a line and then do our extra steps after that. So being in slope-intercept form, we always start at the b, which is negative 3. First thing before we actually graph it is figure out if this should be a dashed or solid line. It should be dashed. So our y-intercept, like I just said a little bit ago, our b is negative 3, 0, negative 3, and our slope is 4. So we start at 0, negative 3. Our slope is 4, so we go up 4 over 1. All we need is 2 points, and we need to dash it. Okay, and then shade the true side. What you're going to do to shade the true side is pick any point, not on the line. And I think the easiest point to pick always is 0, 0. And then what you're going to do is plug the x and the y values into our inequality in the original problem to see if it makes sense, like we were trying on the first page. So 0, we're trying to see if that's greater than negative 3. Is 0 greater than negative 3? Yes, it is. So because this side, we picked this point, and because that side is true, we shade that side. Just like that. Don't have to do a really thorough job, just make sure that it's clear which side you're shading. Okay, the next one, I think it's going to be easiest to change this back into the form we had it before to solve it for y and get it into slope-intercept form. So I'm going to subtract x from both sides. Divide by 2. Y is less than or equal to negative 1/2 x. Next thing we can point out is that it's for sure going to be a solid line. Our y-intercept is 0 because there's no b, and our slope is negative 1/2. So we start at 0, 0, go down 1 over 2, and graph it just like we would a regular line since it's solid. When you graph, you should be using rulers, so it would not look that terrible. Okay, so we can't use 0, 0 because that is on our line. So I think the next easiest point would be 1, 0. And then test it. I'm going to test it in the original. You can test it in the one we rearranged if you want to. 1 plus 2 times 0 less than or equal to 0. Until already this is not true. So we're not going to shade the side with our point. This was our point here. So we are going to shade the other side. Okay, again, I'm probably going to want to rearrange this to be in slope-intercept form to make it easier to graph. So I'm going to subtract x from both sides. And then divide everything by 3. So y is greater than or equal to negative 1/3 x minus 1/3. This is going to be a solid line with a y-intercept of 0, negative 1/3, and a slope of negative 1/3. Okay, so I'm starting at negative 1/3, about right there. Slope is negative 1/3, so I'm going to do down 1 over 3. And it's a solid line. Again, you should be using a ruler, but I cannot. So I'm going to pick 0, 0 since that's available. It's not on the line, so we can pick it. And that's on the top side. Is 0 greater than or equal to negative 1? Yes, this is true. So we shade on the side that includes our point. Okay, now we're just going to do in one variable. So those are our horizontal and vertical lines that we love so much. First one, y is greater than or equal to negative 3. We just have to think about what kind of a line that is. If it doesn't have an x in it, that's a horizontal line. Then we have to think about what kind of a line it is. Dashed or solid, and it's going to be solid. So here's our negative 3. Maybe. And it's a solid line. Then we have to figure out what's true. I'm going to pick 0, 0 since it's not on our line. Is 0 greater than or equal to negative 3? Yes, this is true. So we shade on the side that includes our 0, 0. Okay, it's just x. That means this is going to be a vertical line. And it's going to be dashed or dotted. And this is going to be right here. I'm going to pick 0, 0. Is 0 less than negative 1? No, this is not true, so we have to shade the other side. Okay. You have 2 summer jobs and you earn $8 an hour teaching basketball and $10 an hour teaching swimming. Let X represent the amount of time and hours that you teach basketball and Y represent the amount of hours you teach swimming. Your goal is to earn at least $200 per week. Write an inequality that describes your terms your goal in terms of X and Y. So if you get $8 per hour teaching basketball, that would be 8X. And you're going to add on 10Y, and that has to be at least, so greater than or equal to 200. And then we also need to graph it. This is a solid line, first off. And you could do the slope-intercept form if you wanted, but when it's in this form, I think the easiest thing to do is to find the intercepts. I would always do the intercepts if it's in this form first, and especially if you're doing a word problem. So if I want to find the x-intercept, I would cover up the y, so it would be 8x is greater than or equal to 200, and you would get 25, 0 for your x-intercept, and then 0, 20 for your y-intercept. Okay. Oh, that's bad. Say I go by 2's, and x's represent the number of hours you have to teach basketball. This is in hours. Go by 2's this way. And this is swimming. So your first point is 25, 0, which is right here. Your other point is 0, 20. So that's your line. Now you have to figure out which side to shade. I'm going to pick 0, 0. Go back up to look at the equation. So 0 plus 0 greater than or equal to 200. Is that true? Not true, so we shade the other side. And that is our section 7 in graphing inequalities.